and inherited a nation, we all did, that was in crisis. The worst pandemic in a century, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
So Joe Biden says that the January 6th walkthrough, in which literally no one was killed except a Trump supporter shot by a black Capitol Police officer. And everybody else, there were some other deaths, but they were due to other causes. And of course, there were lies spread about Officer Sicknick. He was hit on the head with a fire extinguisher. That's how he died. New York Times lie. Known to be a lie because, of course, there was video evidence and they didn't have it. So they relied on unnamed sources. Malicious lies. And then it was Officer Sicknick was sprayed with bear spray. They're now taking the second lie back. In fact, the medical examiner said that's not why he died. So you've got this ridiculous event which had elements of lawlessness, people who broke windows, people who knocked things over. They shouldn't have been in the Capitol in the first place. But nevertheless, you got the guy who was prancing around with Nancy Pelosi's desk. Turns out not to be her real desk, but nevertheless, he was making a joke out of it. Other people taking selfies, people chatting with the cops. Of course, the guy in the horns and the bear skins. So this was not what it was made out to be. It was not an insurrection. It was not a riot. It was not a coup. It was not a terrorist attack. It was actually none of those things. We've seen those things. We've seen some of them. We've actually seen, in some ways, all of them. So Biden's statement just, I shouldn't say it lacks gravitas, because gravitas and Biden just don't really go together. We don't expect gravitas from Biden, but we do expect something resembling an account of what actually happened. The worst attack on our democracy, well, worse than 9/11. 9/11 was an attack on our democracy, a real attack. Airplanes used as bombs, thousands of casualties, buildings knocked down. This was worse? Really? How? It was worse than Pearl Harbor, a decimation of the U.S. Navy, a Japanese direct attack on the United States, drawing the United States into a world war in which ultimately some 60,000 Americans died. This is downright ludicrous. Or what about all the efforts by FDR and the racist Democrats to block anti-lynching laws, to deprive blacks of civil rights, to prevent them from getting benefits of the New Deal? What about all the Democratic racists who stood up and blocked the Civil Rights Act of 1964, filibustered it, blocked it, tried to undo it in various ways? Those weren't attacks on our democracy. Those weren't more serious than what happened on one day for, 30 minutes before everybody left. And now all these people are being locked up, prosecuted, many of them put in solitary confinement. And in fact, none of them have been found guilty of anything. So this is a shocking distortion of what happened. Historically, it is inept. It is foolish. It can only come from a man with a vacant brain. But of course, he's not writing it. Other people are planting ideas into this doddering fool, and he mouths them repeatedly. And of course, the press, genuflects and bows in the way that the courtiers did in the old French court. But anyone with a brain, anyone who actually saw what can happen and can match the evidence of their eyes, and now plenty of documentary evidence. By the way, not a single person for January 6th has been charged with treason or with sedition. Why? Because there's no evidence that they did any of it. Some of these oath keepers, there's no evidence they even broke a window. In some cases, people are being accused, even though there's no evidence that they did any harm, any violence at all. So these are show trials. This is a bogus interpretation of what's going on. And to see the President of the United States be part of this huge distortion, this huge lie, is very disappointing, but not entirely unexpected.